Welcome to Zlatan's Fight Picks Episode 1. This is the first episode I have done on the Fight Picks. Usually I'll be doing episodes where I will do picks before a fight and then I'll do a recap. But due to the fact that I couldn't get my YouTube channel up and get set up with cameras and mics just before last fight, even though I tried my best, I did not upload a video, but I will start into the rotation, and the rotation is I will do a recap of last week's fights, which is Saturday, January 14th. Next time, of course, it should rotate picks and recap. But you'll have to bear with it because I really wanted to do this podcast and upload the video to see how the camera works, to see how the microphone works, and to see which software I can use that works best with the speaking and the videoing and the lag times and stuff like that. So we'll see how this turns out. But we will go over the picks that I did make. I do have witnesses to these picks. I'm sure, if you are watching the show, please comment below that you've seen these parlays that I've picked, just to add some credibility. But regardless, we'll do this anyway. I will be doing mostly fight wins at the moment. There are going to be prop bets and other things that I'll introduce to the podcast as time goes on. As I get a little better at uploading videos and just becoming better and more organized with doing these podcasts. It's a huge learning curve. I'm technology challenged. So I don't even have the full screens yet. At some point, I think I will do that, where we'll have me in the corner and, the fighters kind of presented with their stats. And at some point, I'll even have the picks kind of presented, on the screen. But I haven't gotten to that point yet. But what I will do is I will start going over the fights that did happen, and then probably in the next few hours, later today, I will upload the video that will be for the Saturday, January 21st picks. So that'll happen after I upload this video. So without further ado, let's go over what happened on last Saturday. We'll talk about the fights, and we'll go over how I had broken down the picks, and I will go over what was right and what was wrong. All right, here we go. I'll just spin this around. The old school, I got a whiteboard, and it's listed with handwritten. Handwritten, of course, not computer. Let me turn this around here. And just so everybody knows, this is not going to be edited or anything like that. We're not at that point of editing. So this is going to be a lot of humming and hawing and everything else. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to edit it so it sounds much better, a little smoother. So I got to watch my P's and Q's. I can't swear because I wouldn't even know how to take it out anyway. So let's try keep control over everything, and hopefully I don't make any mistakes, because I definitely don't want to do this twice. All right, last fight. This is how I broke down the fights the last time. I usually go by percentages of how good I think the fighters are and what the percentage chance they have of winning these fights. I've never reached 100%. I've never reached 80, 90%. In a fight, you just never know. The highest percentage I've ever given, I think, is 70%. And these last fights, the highest percentage I gave to somebody, because it was kind of a greasy card. There was a lot of variables, and the lines on them, where the betting lines were hugely over-exaggerated, way more than they normally are. And I think it's because it was the first fight after such a long layoff. People were just dying to put bets on, and there were so many fights and fighters that were like minus 1,000, minus 1,100, minus 700, minus 500. It was crazy. I've actually never seen that many fights that fights actually that weren't that certain go so crazy where they were so it was hard to bet these fights, even if you put money on them. And the only way to make money on them is to have combined them into a parlay. And even then, the parlays, the return on the parlays where you would normally hit like a 10, 11 fight parlay was probably about a fifth of what you normally would hit with such a large parlay. So here we go, and then we will start with 60%. There was only one fellow, which was Johnson, who I actually thought was at a 60% rate to beat Mr. Flick. And he did, and he dominated Flick, of course, and that was my for sure bet. But there wasn't anybody else who actually reached that level. But I did have a couple of 55%ers where I thought, you know what, this guy, I thought, you know, was for sure we're going to win. I mean, this is my for sure board, right? Normally 55s don't even reach my for sure board. Usually those are the 60, 70%. But I really didn't have a lot of choices in order to make my my cards for the parlays. So I kind of combined the 50s and 55s and 60s on this one, just because of the way the cards fell. I mean, it was just a very iffy board, but I wanted to be involved in it, so I kind of combined them together. Normally this would be the 70%, but I did, and to be honest with you, they all won. So all of them had reached my goal. So these ones here, Johnson won, Nascimento won, Nurmagomedov won. So all these ones hit. So then I broke it down to this fight, it was quite easy. I mean, Flick, he came after a long layoff, and the fact is that he retired and he came back. He was very dangerous on the ground, but Johnson's got fantastic defense. I couldn't see it going. Nascimento, man, I just think he's one of the most underrated fighters out there. Like, I don't know why there were so many split decisions that he lost. He's way better than his record shows. Nurmagomedov, did I spell that wrong? It's Nurmagomedov, right? I missed an R. Nurmagomedov is, he's a machine, right? And he did fight Barcelos. And Barcelos, I used to have, oh man, I really like that guy. And most fighters he will destroy. But he is getting a little older, and I just saw him slip huge again in the last fight he fought at that Victor Henry. He just, I don't know, it was kind of who he was, Barcelos, but he just looked at like 80% of who he used to be. I'd say he beats most of the guys in that division, but I don't think he's up against the top 10 tier. He's not anywhere near that anymore. But he's a great guy to pick as an underdog, I'll tell you that much, because he is still pretty solid. But I think he's past his prime. So all those fights worked out. Those are my for sure fights. I call it the gold standard. The gold standard. Well, this would be kind of a gold silver standard because this 55 shouldn't have been there. But we know where we're going with this. So, I mean, the next group was pretty much the 51 percenters. I mean, the 51 percenters are guys who I think are going to win, but it's going to be pretty close because the other guys they're fighting are dangerous in some way. And, of course, we're going to start off with Strickland. Everybody, the guys with the underline who have a line underneath them were underdogs. So those are the underdogs. All those guys here were favorites. Heavy favorite, reasonably heavy favorite. I mean, the lines were crazy, how heavy these guys were. Strickland was an underdog. I don't think... One of the things I stopped guessing was I stopped looking at when the person fought last. And everybody said that Strickland just finished fighting a few weeks ago. He's not recovered. And there was another fight that this had happened to me where I can't remember his name, one of the Dominican fighters, and he was a heavyweight, and he fought Sherman. And 3 weeks before that, he had just got his leg mangled in a fight. He won that fight, but he had gotten his leg mangled, and everybody kept saying, "No way, man! No way! There's no way he's recovered. There's no way he's recovered." I mean, he was obviously the better fighter, and he was obviously the guy to pick. But I kind of went with that. I'm like, yeah, man, maybe he just didn't recover. 3 weeks is too short. And I learned, I mean, he ended up winning that fight and dominating the 2 out of the 3 rounds, and his legs seemed fine. So yeah, I kind of stopped basing my decisions on that. And I guess at the end of the day, the UFC would not have these guys fight if they're compromised. And same thing with Strickland. If he was compromised and if he couldn't fight, I don't think they would just do it. And sure enough, Strickland fought like Strickland, and he wasn't compromised in any way because his last fight was within the last month. And he did what I expect him to do. He outpointed, what's that guy's name? He outpointed Imavov, who I think is a good fighter. But I don't think he's a top 10 fighter. He's definitely not a top 5 fighter. And Strickland kind of proved that because he just got off the couch and fought him and won. And he won pretty decisively. Like, it wasn't that close. But he was the underdog, so that actually helped a lot of the parlays. Kopylov, everybody, you know what? He was an underdog, and I've watched this guy improve. And he is one tough guy, and he's a great kickboxer, great striker. And he was taken down quite a few times at the beginning of his career and dominated on the ground. But I've seen huge improvements from this guy in his takedown defense. And in the fight that just finished, where he fought Puna, he actually even took Puna down. And he's been training with the guys from Dagestan, and so he definitely has been shoring up his game. I really like this kid. It's exciting to watch. Just all heart, never quits. And I had picked him to win the fight, and sure enough, he stopped Puna. And this is kind of what I expected. But surprisingly, he was the underdog. But I'm very happy that he was the underdog, to tell you the truth, because it definitely helped with the money line. So, Dan Ige, I don't know why everybody kept saying that Dan Ige, might lose. He was the slight favorite, I believe. I'm pretty sure he was a slight favorite, but he wasn't a massive favorite. And, I don't know why. Dan Ige has fought top 5 contenders. He's a hard guy to take down. He's a hard guy to submit. Damon Jackson, I really like him. I think he's a great fighter. But he's not a top 10 guy. When he reaches this level, he's just not a top 10 guy. And he fought Dan Ige, who has fought the best of the best. And sure enough, he got dominated. It's kind of what I expected on it. But it was good because the lines were pretty close on that one. So the odds were pretty good in the parlay. And Basharat, the Basharat brothers are pretty good. And these guys, again, are at 51%. I mean, that's because of the guys they fought were very good fighters. So I had to go with the guys who I thought were going to win. But they were by no means where I thought these guys were going to destroy the other guys. I mean, Kopylov ended up destroying Puna. But the other guys, Ige kind of destroyed Jackson, I guess. So, but Basharat, he fought a very game Mendoza. And I think he's a pretty good fighter, and I think he beat a lot of guys, but they kind of threw him in with Basharat, who's a real big up-and-comer. So for his first fight, he definitely got a really hard fight. I would definitely bet on this kid against anyone else that's ranked lower in the division. I thought he looked great. Very exciting fighter. His seemed pretty solid. Again, those are my probables. So what I do is I bet this, and then I did a gold standard where I kind of combined those two. So these guns were all in one parlay. But to go over this, Strickland won, Kopylov won, Ige, Basharat. Things were looking great. And of course, by this time, I was sweating because now it was the final leg, the most risky leg, the 50 plus, the fights that I think are 50-50 and where I'm leaning to someone because I think they have an advantage and with all things going the right way should win. But again, this is a fist fight. They could come in, they could have a bad weight cut, they can make one small mistake, they can get injured, anything can happen. Decisions, relying on the judges. This is a toss-up, but, betting on the people that should win because they have an advantage. So with the Pennington fight, it's a great example. I knew this was going to be a super close fight, and it was. It was a split decision. Pennington won. I think Pennington just squeezed it out in the last 30 seconds, even though she was being held by just punching Vieira backwards, basically. I really think that's what swayed enough of the judges to give it to her. Otherwise, Vieira could have eked out a split decision. I really like Vieira. These girls are pretty well matched, evenly matched. And again, Pennington was the underdog in this. Rebeski. This guy was like a minus 700 favorite. He's short, compact, hard to submit, powerful, great wrestler. But the guy he fought was really game, and he fought really well. Nick Aguirre. Was it Nick Aguirre? No, it was Nick Fiore. And Nick Fiore did really well. He's really tall, really long, really lanky. Had some good strikes, good off the ground. He couldn't get pounded out of there. He got Rebeski tired after the first round. And if you see how this guy is built, he's built like a tank. I could see him getting tired, but he doesn't have a gas issue. He goes like that all the time, like really hard, really fast, and he lasts the entire fight. But you can tell him it was wearing on him, but he still fought, at a very high level. But really impressed with Nick Fiore. Looking forward to seeing the guy in that loss. He fought a really tough guy. Rebeski was a minus 700 favorite. It was ridiculous how favored he was. But there's a lot of high hopes for Rebeski. He had a big win at the Dana White Contender Series and pretty exciting guy. Good to watch. He's not a guy who will just sleep on you. But, during that fight, he was getting tired. He was taking down Fiore, and the fact is that it looked more like he was resting at times than really ground and pounding him. But Fiore was in there for the whole thing, and I was really impressed. But he did lose, and Rebeski did win. And, of course, Dan Argueta fought Nick Aguirre. Nick Aguirre, he's not that great. Dan Argueta, I don't think he's that great either. But, I definitely thought he was going to be edge out Nick Aguirre. He every time I watch Dan Argueta fight, he's short, he's compact. He's okay. He's pretty good at wrestling. He's pretty good at striking. And, given the right guy, he's going to win. But he's not super good at everything, and I definitely don't think he's a contender. And Nick Aguirre, of course, is a new guy to the UFC, and he was just not good enough for Argueta, which is what I kind of expected. So now the 50 plus was correct. So that was the maybe line, as I call it the silver dollar line, and those ones hit. So those ones, when I combined, so I had bets on each level, and then a combination, and then I had a combination of the three. So combination of the two, combination of the three, and this was my no bet. So I only had one real no bet where I would not put it in any parlay just because it was such a toss-up. And it was Cachoeira and Eubanks. And you know what? If in a perfect world, I would say Eubanks could win a decision. But she's getting older. She's had a lot of weight cut issues. And Cachoeira just straight up, go straight at you, hit you as hard as you can, and she can be beat if she's being taken to the ground and controlled in decisions. But I wouldn't have picked it because the fact is that Eubanks is so unreliable. Her gas tank's unreliable. She starts off great and she wears out. To tell you the truth, I would not pick this fight. But coincidentally, Eubanks had weight cut issues and the fight was canceled. So the fight I wouldn't bet on was actually canceled and it didn't even happen. So this was a perfect week as far as I was concerned. Everything worked out. The odds were terrible. The hitting a big, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hitting the 10 fights on the parlay, and again, like I said, you probably would have hit normally 5 times more than this. But it is what it is, and it worked out really well for everybody. Well, me and everybody who I talk to and listen to me. But it doesn't happen all the time. Not financial advice by no means. But we won enough that we could probably be betting for the next couple of years, depending on what your units are. As long as you keep your units consistent, you don't have to hit very many of these larger parlays. If you like to do more betting, there's a lot more prop bets, under 1.5 rounds. There's sites that offer time, takedowns. Those are the things that I will actually, at some point, let me turn this around. Oh yeah, by the way, that's the silver dollar bet. And this is the dollar bet. And then I call it the shooting darts. You throw that in a separate bet, not included, just a total separate bet where you put one bet where you put everybody on it. But keep that at a really low investment because it's like throwing darts. Let's see. I'm going to go further back. All right. So that was it. Everything worked out really well this week. I'm thinking that by the end of today, I will have the fights for Saturday, January 21st. I've got the notes here once I upload this video. Thank you very much for watching. It was a great experience for me. It was the first time. And we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully stay tuned for the next video. Probably be up in the next 8 hours. Thank you.